Welcome back, fourth graders. Hope you had a great weekend. We got to our climax last week. The story, if you remember this plot diagram, we were going up our rising action. All stories kind of follow this. Remember at the beginning how you set it up with characters and the settings. And then you have some sort of event, some conflict. In our case, that was the letter. And then as it rose up with the action, all these stories have this kind of rising action where you get to the top and there's something that happens that's kind of the most exciting or the most action or the biggest part of the story. It's called the climax. It's like the top of the roller coaster where you're building. You get to the top of the roller coaster and then down you come with falling action until you finally get to the end of the story, which is where your resolution is. And so we had been climbing this roller coaster of our story in Lemonade War ever since the letter arrived and Evan got very upset with Jesse and having to spend his whole year in the same classroom. This rising action had one event after another event after another event that kept rising up until finally in the last chapter 10 that we just read last week, we get to the very top where Jessie makes this decision. She realizes that Evan only has to go out and sell one more glass of lemonade while she's at the beach with Megan, and he would win. He would win the Lemonade War. And so she does something that I'm sure she's going to regret. She ruined Evan's lemonade. It was a total loss. So at the end of chapter 10, if you remember, Evan had this really smart idea. He was going to put his lemonade on wheels, it said. He basically took all his lemonade that he had left and made a gigantic cooler full of lemonade that was going to sit on his wagon. And he was going to pull that wagon from one neighborhood to another neighborhood until finally he sold all of his lemonade. And it was a super hot day. It was a perfect day for selling lemonade. And so it was a smart plan, and Jessie realized it. She was thinking, there's no way I can win now, because she had agreed, remember, to go to the beach. And she couldn't back out of that, so she was going to spend the day with Megan at the beach, while Evan was out there selling probably his biggest day's worth of lemonade. Let's read here for a second. So this is where Jessie sprang into action. First, she got out a large Ziploc bag from the kitchen drawer. The kind that you could freeze a whole gallon of strawberries in if you wanted to. Then she held it upside down and wide open over the fruit bowl. She gave the bowl a solid knock. Jessie was surprised how easy it was to catch the fruit flies that floated up from the bowl. It was like they wanted to die. She filled that bag and two more with flies, then hurried to the garage. She unscrewed the top of the big cooler, and holding the first bag upside down, she unzipped it, expecting the flies to fall down into the lemonade, but they didn't. They stayed safe and dry in the bag. It was like they wanted to live. Well, too bad for you, you stupid flies, said Jessie as she plunged the bag into the lemonade. Under the surface, she turned the bag inside out and swished it back and forth so that all the flies were washed off into the lemonade. She emptied all 3 bags of flies into the big cooler and then hunted around until she found 2 green inchworms. Oh, yuck. And a fuzzy gypsy moth caterpillar. Ugh. She tossed them into the cooler and then she threw in a fistful of dirt for good measure. She was just about to screw the top back on when she heard Evan coming up the basement stairs. There wasn't time to get the top back on. He would see the bugs and the whole plan would be ruined. So here's this excitement of Evan coming up the stairs. She's quickly trying to screw the top on this cooler. You can almost picture it in your mind, this frantic action, this climax, this top of the roller coaster, like she's just about there, but not quite. And maybe she'll be found out by Evan and maybe Evan will see that she's ruined his lemonade, there's this action here at the very top of our roller coaster. Jessie ran to the steps and shouted, "Evan, Mom wants to see you in her office right away." "Oh, man," muttered Evan as he started to climb the second set of stairs. Jessie quickly screwed on the cap, grabbed her blue bathing suit from the basement, and then went upstairs to her room. On the way, she passed Evan coming back down. "Mom did not want to see me," he said, annoyed. Jessie looked surprised. "Huh. Well, that's what it sounded like." She yelled something down the stairs. "I thought it was, 'Get Evan.'" Jessie shrugged. So I got you." From her bedroom window, she watched Evan rolling down the street with his lemonade on wheels stand. He was like one of those old-time peddlers calling out, "Lemonade! Get your ice-cold lemonade here," as he walked. And for one lightning brief second, Jessie felt a stab of regret. She could see how hard he was straining to pull the heavy cooler. She knew what it was like to stand in that hot sun selling lemonade, but the feeling was snuffed out by the hurricane of anger she felt when she remembered Evan's gravelly voice. "Pulverize." Jessie switched into her bathing suit, packed up her beach bag, and said a quick goodbye to her mother as the Moriartys pulled into the driveway. "What a great day for the beach," said her mother. "Have fun and, be home in time for the fireworks, okay?" The fireworks. Yep. Jessie imagined that there would be some fireworks tonight. So you see, Jessie did have one lightning brief second where she felt some regret. She looked out the window and saw Evan struggling with that wagon, and she knew how difficult it was to stand out in the sun. And so she did feel some regret. But then she remembered his voice as he was teasing her about winning the war. And suddenly it didn't bother her as much anymore. Remember, in our notes, we've been writing down all these plots. Remember, a plot is basically just the events, the what happened in the story. We'd focused on it by using main ideas and chapters as we went through chapter by chapter. We basically picked out what the plot or the event was. And that's what we created then this plot diagram from, as we used those events as we climbed up this plot diagram. And those plots, if you continued on, mine went on to a second page. You could really have a lot more than this even, but focusing on the main ideas then, that last sentence here, Jessie put bugs and dirt in Evan's lemonade to ruin his last day of sales. That's the plot that was at the top here. That's the climax. And now everything after this is going to be some falling action as we get to how the story ends. What happens at the end of the story? And the question comes up, what would you have done? Jessie didn't feel like she had any other choice. Evan was going to win the war if she didn't do something, and the only thing she could think of was to ruin his lemonade so he couldn't sell anything on that last day. Certainly not a good choice, but for her, she felt like she had no other choice to make. She had to do something. So maybe you want to think about that as you read on and talk about, maybe as a class, talk about what other things could Jessie have done in that situation. Yes, she was angry. Yes, she was upset with Evan. But what else could she have done, given the situation and given the fact that she was going to lose the lemonade war if she didn't do something? Your assignment then today is to continue on in chapter 11, titled A Total Loss. A total loss, it says, goods so damaged that there's no point in repairing them, or they can't be repaired at all. So we know that Evan's lemonade is ruined. And the title of that chapter kind of makes us feel like things are not going to turn out well for Evan. But, you never can tell. What if he mixed up that lemonade in that big giant cooler and none of the bugs came out, nothing happened? Well, today, if you would, Also look at your packet. Some of you have been working on this packet with your teachers. And you might want to take some time to predict. I wonder what's going to happen in this chapter. Is Evan going to have his lemonade ruined? Is it truly going to be bugs in the lemonade with the kids that are buying it? Or is it going to be something else that happens? Try to make a prediction before you start reading today in chapter 11, and then see if you are right or not. All right, well, good luck. Have fun. We'll see you again tomorrow.